Casey Hendrickson from the Mid-States Construction Studio. Mid-States Construction, one of the nation's leading authorized builders of new core building systems. On News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson, producer Tim, screening your phone calls, taking your traffic updates. Phone number to join us, 574-2595-95.3. That is 2595953. You can also send a text message to 45364. Please put MNC at the beginning of that message. All right, I have avoided talking about this, I think, long enough. The situation is not going away. Shakespeare in the Park, the assassination Julius Caesar play that keeps getting interrupted now by conservative and right-wing advocates. It has happened again. So now what has happened is it has sparked a debate about whether or not these activists are going too far by stopping this play. And they're getting criticized by people on the right. So there are people on the right that are saying, we don't like the idea of these people rushing the stage and stopping this production of Shakespeare in the Park with the Julius Caesar, let's stab Trump a bunch of times. Now, as I pointed out, when you normalize assassination, which has been happening in this country for some years now, when you normalize assassination, eventually somebody's going to act out. We saw this story break, and then all of a sudden somebody goes out there and actually kills, or tries to kill, I should say, Republicans. And sorry, I almost pulled a Nancy Pelosi there. Scalise is not dead. Nancy Pelosi nearly said he was. But is there a correlation? There's a lot of evidence, folks. There's a lot of research that suggests there is. When you look at media coverage and you look at the saturation that we have with it now, the research seems pretty concrete considering there's multiple studies from multiple outlets and they all come to the same conclusion. Media coverage of violence and extremism leads to more violence and extremism. And as we continue to peddle a lot of false narratives, like Republicans want to kill your family, people will become, of course, angry. They will become stupid and they will do dumb things. Okay, they started off stupid, all right? But, you know, their brain just totally shut off after they got radicalized through media coverage. And as we have highlighted many of these research studies over the past several years, it has really kind of become, dare I say, settled science. That when you have media coverage of this stuff, that it impacts people's behavior. And if people actually think that there's an evil group out there conspiring to kill their family, they will take fight or flight. And for those who fight, they will pick up weapons and they will try to harm the people that they perceive as being a threat to them, in spite of the fact that it is largely a myth. We've seen it with Black Lives Matter. We have seen it with assaults on police. We have seen it with assaults on Republicans. And there have been a massive number of assaults on Republicans and conservatives and pro-Trump supporters, because not all of them are Republicans or conservative, over the past year or so. Massive numbers of these assaults. In fact, a Trump supporter was just stabbed 7 times yesterday. So, I mean, this is the type of thing that people have to be very conscious of. You know, the Confederate flag stuff. There are people out there who believe that anybody who has a Confederate flag on them is a racist who wants to enslave and harm minorities. It's absolutely preposterous. It is totally untrue. It is historically tone deaf. But they don't care. That's what they've been told, and that's what they believe. And so anytime they see a Confederate flag, they attack somebody. There are people who believe that of the American flag. So schools ban the American flag on certain holidays because they're worried that the Hispanic students are not civilized human beings and will physically assault anybody wearing an American flag on Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, you really think highly of Hispanic students in your school, don't you? But they're tone deaf. They're clueless. So when you have these assassination plays, there's no doubt about it that they normalize an act of violence. Okay? You have had many people who are supporting these assassination plays telling you the same thing about video games and Hollywood for the past several years. Many of them are Hollywood celebrities who make those violent video games and violent movies, but, I digress. How can you really be a celebrity out there and say, we have a culture of death and guns in this country, and then make a death-riddled gun movie? Where do you think the culture comes from? Huh? Liam? And again, they're just assuming the average person out there, this is their argument now. This is the liberal anti-gun argument. The average person out there cannot decipher reality from fantasy. You can't tell the difference between a video game in real life, and you can't tell the difference between a movie in real life or television in real life. You and I, with the exception of a few kooks out there listening to the show, you and I understand that all of the research says the exact opposite, but that doesn't matter. So the same people that are out there, Jim Carrey and Liam Neeson and all of these other nincompoops, the same idiots out there telling you that you and your children cannot decipher from reality and make-believe are telling you that we can decipher from reality and make-believe when it comes to Shakespeare in the Park, or a novel, or a book, or the latest Moby music video, which blows up Donald Trump. Did you see that? The latest Moby music video? Moby, you know that guy? He had like a hit like 14 years ago. Has he had a hit since, Tim? Moby? Or does he just do like Pepsi commercials now? I think I saw him in a soda commercial not long ago. And I was like, he's still alive? I haven't seen that guy in forever. I'm sure he's doing production stuff on movies or something like that. I'm sure he's keeping himself busy. But so yeah, Moby has the latest music video. He blows up a cartoon Donald Trump. Way to tone down that violent rhetoric there. Gotta love it. So now what's happening, though, is people on the right are criticizing people who are interrupting Shakespeare in the Park. And so I wanted to get your take on this. 574-25-95-95-3. Is it appropriate or okay for activists to interrupt a play when the play is assassinating the President of the United States? Now, there are some interesting arguments against this, and one of them comes from Brian Kilmeade from Fox News, who also has a radio show, which you can hear, I believe, here on 95.3 MNC on the weekend still. So Brian Kilmeade, he went on another show, and he gave his take on this, and I'm kind of curious to see what your perspective is at 574-25-95-95-3. Here's Brian Kilmeade.
Mr. Kilmeade and Friends host Brian Kilmeade. Brian, I haven't seen that video before, so I was kind of sucked
Sorry
into
about
it.
The buzz.
One of those protesters talked to Sean Hannity last night. Take a listen to this, and then I'll get your comments.
The left has systematically and programmatically used free speech and artistic expression as a pretext to incite violence against the right. The left is taking pleasure in watching an assassination attempt on President Trump. When you're going to delight in the assassination of our president, it's going to have a violent end.
Brian, it seems to me that because it's Donald Trump, anything's okay. Do you get that sense?
A couple of things going on. I just don't think. I understand the sentiment. We went over the play. I think it's totally inappropriate. I'm not a Shakespeare expert. The Old English kind of makes my eyes glaze over. I'm not just sophisticated enough, as most people on Twitter will point out. But I will say this. I have no use for storming the stage, interrupting performances. I mean, for example, I hear the Book of Mormon is very insulting to many Mormons. They weren't buying tickets and storming the stage in the middle. When Hamilton's cast turned around and started pointing fingers at Vice President Pence, I don't care your point of view. I think that's inappropriate. I think what Laura Loomer, who seems like a fine person, decided to do to that cast is totally inappropriate. Many of those casts got a job to get experience to make it in the business. They have a right to do what they're doing. They don't necessarily, are not necessarily pro or anti-Donald Trump. I just don't like the idea of storming the stage because you don't like the guy. Remember the person who stormed the stage tried to grab President Trump's leg. Is that right? Well, he said inflammatory things. Well, that's just not, it's not the way, I don't want to get used to that, Ashley.
No, I hear what you're saying, although I think if it was Barack Obama that was getting assassinated, there'd be a wave of liberals jumping up on the stage to protest.
Okay, and I mean, the other guy, he's certainly got a valid point that if this were Obama being assassinated, there would be mass hysteria, and rightfully so. Mass hysteria, and people would be angry about it. This is the president of the United States. Whether you like the guy, support the guy or not, it's still the president of the United States. Remember, the old adage was, I may not like the person who's in office, but I respect the office. Nobody respects the office anymore. And there are various reasons why the prestige of the office has declined since the 1990s, and we could always go over that in another show. But Kilmeade, I've got a couple of problems with Kilmeade with a few of the things that he said. First of all, to my knowledge, I've not seen the Book of Mormon. To my knowledge, Matt Stone and Trey Parker don't advocate murdering all of the Mormons. Have you heard that they advocate murdering all of the Mormons in the Book of Mormon, Producer Tim? I haven't heard that. Now, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I haven't heard that. So, not exactly comparable, right? Because we're talking about somebody who has called the President of the United States a dictator and therefore needs to be assassinated by his close associates in order to prevent tyranny from controlling the government. That's what Julius Caesar is about, just in case you haven't read it. That's what Julius Caesar is about. That's what the play is about. And, of course, we know that's what really, to an extent, really happened. They thought he was a tyrant. They conspired against him. They assassinated him, which was, by the way, commonplace at the time in Rome. But they've now replaced Julius Caesar with Donald Trump. Oh, he's a dictator and he's a tyrant. We must kill him in order to save everybody, right? That's the whole notion of this thing. So I don't know that it's comparable to the Book of Mormon. I also don't know that it's comparable to the person who rushed the stage and grabbed President Trump's leg because they didn't like what President Trump was saying. I don't know that it is comparable to that. But is there a difference? Now, let's throw in some other things. To Kilmeade's point, we consistently have speakers who are conservative or right-wing trying to speak on college campuses, and they don't allow them to speak. They rush the stage. They commit acts of violence, such as Berkeley, that sort of thing. And so they have used violence in the past, and they've used obstruction in the past to prevent those speakers from speaking. Is that equivalent? Or because we are talking about the assassination fantasy of the President of the United States, does that therefore take it to an extraordinary level? So in typical, I would agree with Kilmeade's point. You don't prevent somebody from talking just because you don't like what they're saying or like what they're doing. That's a fair point. Don't go to the play if you don't want to watch it. But I would also like to point out that there is a huge difference between not wanting to hear somebody speak and somebody carrying out an assassination fantasy on stage. So I don't know that they're necessarily comparable. And I don't know that having an assassination fantasy about the President of the United States is always protected speech, since we know the Secret Service likes to call radio shows when callers call up and go, somebody should kill that guy. Is this any different? Is it just performance art, or does it cross the realm to unacceptable? And are these people who are interrupting the play, are they in the right, as in correct, not right wing? Are they in the right, or are they crossing a line like Brian Kilmeade and other people on the right are now starting to say, hey, look, you don't interrupt the play. Just because you don't like the play, don't interrupt the play. If you don't like it, don't go there. The people who are interrupting it would say there's a big difference between free speech and carrying out an assassination fantasy of the President of the United States on a stage. There's a big difference. Is there? Do you agree with that sentiment? 574-2595, 95.3. Your phone calls on this and more coming up on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Tracy Hendrickson, News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather station.
Tuning in, News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Producer Tim, screening your phone calls, taking your traffic updates. Phone number 574-2595-95.3. That is 2595-953. You can also send a text message to 45364. Please put MNC at the beginning of that message. So we're talking about people storming the stage and interrupting the Shakespeare in the Park Trump Assassination play, which is a rendition of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And I think I mentioned that it happened when it did the first time, and now it's just like it keeps happening over and over again. There's now been a split between people on the right on whether or not this is an acceptable tactic. Kilmeade and others on the right have said, no, it is not. You don't storm a stage. But then he equated it to things that, frankly, aren't comparable. So I don't know that his points had any validity. But I will say that traditionally, people on the right, conservatives in general, do not like the idea of censoring somebody's stage presence. If you don't like it, don't go. The people who are storming the stage would say, yeah, but this is different than speech. This is somebody carrying out an assassination fantasy of the President of the United States, which has left a lot of people wondering why the Secret Service hasn't gotten involved. And I don't know that that involvement would be warranted in any way. But people have speculated about reasoning for their not being involved in all of this. But again, is it different? Yeah, it's different. Having an assassination fantasy being carried out on the stage is certainly different than not liking a pundit giving a speech. Sure, absolutely. But does it rise to the level of, okay, this is so egregious, we can interrupt this? Others on the right are just saying, you know what, the left does this to us all the time. It's time we fight back. And they're doing the whole fight fire with fire thing. And maybe or maybe not, that is justifiable in your opinion. That's why we're taking our phone calls. 574-2595, 95.3. That is 2595-953. Once again, you can send me a text message, and many of you have already. I'll try to get to those in a little bit. To 45364. Again, please put MNC at the beginning of that message. Tracy, welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I feel a little strange because I'm not a person that will believe reacting to people, but assassination of our president, the head that Kathy did, it is so far over the edge, and it's not stopping. It's like, what's going to happen next? And it's like, I'm tired of sitting back and I'm not allowed to speak. My opinion can't be heard, but they keep going and doing more things. And I would usually say I would not go up there, but they didn't go with any guns or anything. And if they said, hey, this is wrong, like I saw on the stage, you know what? I thought, that's it. I'm fighting for my president. We could not have done this with Barack Obama. None of this would have been tolerated. He got away with unbelievable things, but sure. Now it's like we're just supposed to sit back and do nothing. And I think, no, fight fire with fire, not in the exact way they're doing, but,
Okay.
I just think it's got to stop. It's got to stop somewhere.
All right.
This is over the top, and our country is suffering for it. It's about American citizens. I'm fighting for I didn't appreciate Barack Obama, but I have never went to the extent or done even one thing. I call the White House every day if I didn't agree. But I did not go with a vengeance and hatred against other people's beliefs because I want to be heard. So this is beyond tolerance. It's gone into a level that I have never seen. I'm 65, and I am horrified. And yet I want to stand up and fight for my president and our country because this is my country.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Tracy, appreciate the call. Thank you very much. And here's another thing. Okay, you rushed the stage, sure. And yes, they have been peaceful protests at this point in time. They're just interrupting and disrupting. Is that any different than what people on college campuses have been doing to conservative speakers over the past several years and getting up on stage and interrupting? I mean, they actually got violent. I mean, they were throwing pies and stuff like that. And the media thought it was hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. And the media was constantly reporting, oh, it's harmless, just a pie. Just a little pie, and then what happens if the speaker up there cold clocks the person who is sitting there trying to throw the pie in their face? Then all of a sudden that guy or gal is the bad guy, right? You used violence. Well, they're throwing a pie at me. It's just a pie. You don't punch him in the face. Sure you do. So, I mean, is rushing the stage and interrupting the production, is it really anything different than what the left has been doing all of these years? And look, the left is not used to the right fighting back. They're just not. Because the right for many years has never fought back. Now they do. And yes, they have been spurred on and inspired by the current president who didn't take anybody's crap. And so they are defending themselves. And they're defending themselves using the same exact tactics that the left has been using for all of these years. And nobody likes it. Well, I shouldn't say nobody on the left in the media likes it. 574-2595-95-3. Ted, welcome to the program.
I'm sorry for disturbing you, sir. But in 1965, in January, me and my brother went to the embassy in Bucharest. It was William Taplin at that time, at the head. He gave us the visa to enter the United States, and he told us one thing. You can say whatever you want in America. One thing you cannot say, I'm going to kill the president or assassinate and so on and so forth. That's the only one you cannot do it because they put you in jail.
Sure.
I think every embassy should tell this one, the people that come over here, what is the law and what is not the law.
Well, you know, and that's a fair point, Ted, and I appreciate the call. Thank you. There are a lot that would say that this is not a direct, credible threat to the president. This is simply, air quote, art. And so they're not actually threatening. It's an interesting point. We got more coming up. 95.3 MNC.
Mid-States Construction, one of the nation's leading authorized builders of new core building systems. On News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station. Casey Hendrickson.
Casey Hendrickson here. You're listening to News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. Producer Tim screening your phone calls, taking your traffic updates if you have any. Phone number to join us, 574-2595-95.3. That is 2595-953. You can also send a text message to 45364. Please put MNC at the beginning of that message. All right, so let's read some of the text messages on the last topic. I'm not taking any more phone calls on this. Okay, this one. Casey, I heard a nasty rumor that Clint Eastwood passed away over the weekend. Any truth to this? No, and stop getting your news from Facebook. The Rock also did not die. So Clint Eastwood and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, death rumors flew over the weekend. Look, here's the thing. If you can't find any coverage of it, it didn't happen. I promise. It's a consistent prank that happens on social media. Happens every couple of months. There's a new celebrity that supposedly dies. People also, there's a website out there where you can go and write your own obit, and then it'll publish to your page as if a relative had published your death. So people have been doing that as well. It is absolutely okay to interrupt and do harm to anyone that insults the prophet Trump. Okay? Don't like storming the stage, but look what happened when we had an Obama rodeo clown. You know, freedom is freedom. Don't like it, don't go. If you must, peacefully protest outside of the venue. Only authority has the right to interrupt a play, etc., not a private citizen, otherwise anarchy reigns. Who pays the maintenance to keep up the park that the play is being performed in? If a public park, my taxes shouldn't be supporting an assassination fantasy. Just my thoughts. Your taxes are, in fact, funding part of it. There's corporate sponsors. American Express is one of them. A couple of others that are sponsoring the play. Fighting fire with fire gets Muslims run over in front of their mosque. That's a bad thing. Fair point. Interrupting Republican town hall meetings. Yeah, they've been doing that. Casey, they sure don't like a taste of their own medicine. No, they don't. If assault, battery, rioting, blocking traffic, censorship, and other forms of expression are tolerated, why isn't interrupting? Well, it is. It's tolerated except when you do it from the perspective of a right-winger. See, people on the right are not allowed to interrupt. People on the left, it is praise. I'm not saying it's right in either case, but there is certainly an awful lot of people out there that say, you know what, the left has been doing this exact thing, jumping on stage, interrupting a performance. They've been doing it for years. Nobody's cared. It has been celebrated. It has been effective. And we're going to start using their tactics against them. Then you go back to that point. Fighting fire with fire is when you get Muslims run over in front of their mosque. People have asked me why the guy in London picked that mosque. That mosque is where several radicalized terrorists have come out of. And so there is a feeling among some in England that mosque is a terror-supporting factory. And that's why he picked that. Let's see. Low-info hypocrites reside on both ends of the political spectrum. True. If this were Hillary, libs would be outraged and cons would be silent. Well, I don't know, because cons aren't silent right now. Conservatives and Republicans are speaking out against it, even though it is interrupting a liberal play. So I don't know necessarily that would be 100% right, but I get the point that you're trying to make. As I said, it's an interesting thing, nonetheless. I mean, when you have something like this out there, like I said, there's a lot of people that have just decided, you know what, we're going to fight now. We haven't fought for years. We haven't had anybody who would stick up for himself. Now we do, so we're going to stick up for him as well. And we're going to stick up for ourselves, and that's what's happening. And like I said, there's a lot who would not condone interrupting a play in another form, but because there's an assassination fantasy being carried out on stage, they believe that crosses a line. And therefore, they believe it's justified in doing so. Me, personally, I'm just going to shop in Target and not worry about the bathroom situation, get good deals. But that's just me. The rest of you, you can live your life the way that you want to live it.